We bring you the headlines in February that show Tusla's dysfunction is hiding in plain sight.
How are you guys? First of all, Ewan, can I just reiterate a big thank you for having an interest in this subject? It's something that a lot of people find discomforting to have to listen to and to have to discuss it in a mature way. Tusla has a major responsibility in this state in terms of the protection of children, and they're not doing very well from the point of view of the mothers and fathers, but mainly mothers who contact the Alliance of Birth Mothers Seeking Justice. So we would have been contacted by hundreds of mothers and fathers over the last 4 to 5 years. And they all tell us stories that have particular patterns or themes. And those themes involve an unjust set of procedures that are used to remove children and take them into care. They involve the manipulation of court systems, the manipulation of documentation, outright at times fabrication of information, all to the end of taking a child in care. So the mothers that contact us, each and every one of them has a story that's very individual, very emotive, but at the same time there are themes and patterns. What I call my doctoral degree, my PhD that I did, looked at organizational culture change in public health bodies that deliver health and social care, and how to create change within organizations. And I came up with a concept. So quite often we would talk about people and also the anatomy of human beings being pathological, that there's something not working, there's something not right in it. When we talk about pathological human beings in a personality context, we talk about the type of people who would lie, deceive, manipulate, all those kind of things to get their own means. Well, an organization can also be pathological. And what can start off as a bad practice in one area can spread out. And so the people who are contacting us, the parents, are dealing with the pathological aspects of Tusla. So you have those aspects of Tusla where they're overworked, kids don't have social workers, all this kind of stuff, and all those problems. But on top of that, you have a situation where, in many, I'm not saying all instances, but in many instances where we are contacted, this manipulative, pathological, inequitable abuse of power is used against mothers. And we have known mothers who have attempted suicide, mothers who continue to have suicidal ideation. We know about mothers and fathers who have taken their own lives and been contacted by the families of those people because of this pathological behavior that's going on. So we went to the petitions committee. We put a petition out there to increase the powers of HICWA to be able to sanction Tusla when these type of behaviours are discovered. And I think the committee thought we meant sanction in terms of funding. But what we mean is sanction in terms of personnel and HR. That if someone has been found to manipulate, to abuse procedure and process to the detriment of a mother and a child, that they should be demoted, they should be fired, whatever has to happen. But at the moment, there's no proper system to address that. You can go to the body where the social worker is registered, but they'll say, well, if there's an ongoing complaint, we can't deal with this and we can't look at that and we can't look at individual cases. So there's nowhere that you can really go with this except to the Dáil Éireann to try to have the law changed. So that's just one aspect of the many problematics that we're trying to address within the Alliance of Birth Mothers. We're also trying to address the in-camera rule. We're also trying to address the attitude that many social work teams seem to have towards parents. And most fundamentally, and we had a very good meeting with Kate Duggan, the head of Tusla, yesterday, and we had a meeting prior to that as well on the issue of family reunification. I worked in residential care for quite a few years with adolescents in care. And not once did I come across a case where there was any effort or any thought put into family reunification. And yet that is supposed to be central to what Tusla does. And never in one case did I come across where there was any attempt at reunification. So we've been pressing this issue that reunification should not be a tag on. It should be central if a child is taken into care. And from the very beginning, a reunification plan has to be put into place and has to be actioned rather than it's left sitting on a shelf because everybody's too busy or they're just trying to get a bed for a kid.
We need and do you think, Finbar, just on this, and no. I'm curious because of Ireland's history around, I suppose, how we've cared for children going back a long time. But when you say pathological, I mean, is that a sense of exploitative people getting into jobs because they know there are vulnerable people there, or is it more a cultural thing?
No, I don't think so. I think it's about dealing with the workload, getting your objectives met, and climbing up that career ladder. I don't think people go in to the job specifically to be manipulative or to take advantage. I think it's just a part of what can happen in organizations that are overworked, whose management systems are, in terms of ethics, are not properly reviewed and explored on a quarterly basis or even on an annual basis. It's the organization itself is the key. Now, an organization is, let's get real, people. But what happens is one guy starts a bad habit. He retires and passes the bad habit on to the next guy who thinks this is the thing that we do. At college and university, when they were studying, they learned all the wonderful things about social work from the point of view of being able to advocate for change in people's lives, to get young people and children to blossom, to reunite families. This is what we were educated within the academic aspect of who we become as a social worker. But when you go into the real life in the office where you're hit up with 50 cases, another 10 cases coming in every day into the office, at the same time, you inherit these bad habits, which are pathological. And at the same time, you want to achieve objectives. There'll be a portion or a percentage of people will become manipulative in their approach to achieving those objectives. As well as that, quite often it comes down to personalities, where a mother and a social worker clashes. But then that clash is dragged into the planning system for the child. And it becomes personal, if you understand me.
I do.
Just to make one more point as well, and this isn't about me here, but just in terms of, some people, first of all, we in the Alliance of Birth Mothers fully understand that some kids need to be taken into care. We fully understand that. But in many instances, actually giving support to the family would have actually dealt with the problematic and working things out. But rather than doing that, the child is snatched immediately into the care system. Now, you spoke about the historical aspects of Irish child protection and care. I myself was in an orphanage, as I used to call it, and you call it a residential home now, from I was born until I was almost 4 years old. And I understand fully what that does to the person throughout their entire life, how they feel about themselves, how they interact with the world. There's this major sense of rejection. There's a major sense of there's something wrong with me, because the baby, when the baby is taken from a mother, it doesn't even have language. It only has feelings. Those feelings will become language later on. But the feeling that the baby can have is just of pure out and out rejection and pure self-loathing, because they feel that there's something wrong with them, even though they don't have the language to understand this yet. But because they become the initial core feelings of a baby, a newborn baby, that is the fundamental building blocks of which the rest of the personality develops. And so it runs through your entire life. So taking a child into care is something that should be so last option. And every support and everything should be done to try to avoid that situation. And that's not happening at the moment. Now, we have heard some positives from Kate Duggan in our meetings recently, and I don't want to say too much about that at the moment because it was considered to be a private meeting. But there are some positives, but it's going to take a hell of a lot of work. And there has to be an admission that things are not working, things are not right. And it's not just about numbers, it's also about attitude. I think I've said enough for now.